I was standing outside the office building when my phone buzzed. The security guard had just handed me a brown envelope and told me I had 10 minutes to leave. His voice was polite but firm, like he had done this before. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the envelope. Inside was one sheet of paper. No smile. No apology. No explanation. Your services are no longer required. Effective immediately. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time, hoping the words would change. They didn't. I had worked there for 6 years. I came early every morning and stayed late every night. I skipped holidays and birthdays. I covered shifts when others were sick. I answered calls even when I was not paid to. And now this was how it ended. I stood there staring at the glass doors that no longer opened for me. People walked past me without noticing. To them it was just another workday. Then my phone vibrated again. Unknown number. The message was short. You should have kept quiet forever. My heart dropped into my chest. That was when I knew this was not just about losing my job. This was about the secret. The one I promised never to tell. And the man I trusted most had decided I was no longer useful. My boss's name was Mr. Raymond Cole. To the world he was a hero. He ran a fast-growing company in the city, the kind people talked about with pride. Newspapers called him a self-made success. Churches invited him to speak about hard work and honesty. Young people shared his speeches and said they wanted to be like him. In the office hallway, his photo hung on the wall. He stood in a dark suit, smiling with confidence. Every time I passed it, I felt proud to work for him. I believed in that smile. When I first joined the company, I was desperate. Jobs were hard to find. My mother was sick and needed medicine every week. My younger sister was still in school and depended on me. When Mr. Cole hired me, it felt like someone had finally seen me. You're lucky, people told me. Stay loyal, my mother said. And I did. I became his assistant. I handled his files, emails, and reports. I knew his schedule better than he did. I protected his time and covered his mistakes. He trusted me. At least that is what I believed back then. The secret came on a rainy Thursday night. Mr. Cole had left early that evening and asked me to lock up when I was done. The office felt different once he was gone. The lights hummed softly, and the rain hit the windows like tiny stones. Outside, the city sounded far away. I stayed behind to finish some reports that were due the next morning. I logged into the system to print a few files and double-check numbers, something I had done many times before. That was when I saw it. A folder I had never noticed before appeared on the screen. It was not clearly labeled, just a string of numbers and letters. Something in my chest tightened, but I told myself it was nothing. Still, I clicked it. The documents inside made my hands go cold. Numbers did not match. Reports had been edited. Money had been moved in large amounts, sent through accounts that did not make sense, then returned under clean names. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. This could not be real. I checked again. Then again. It was real. This was not a mistake. This was fraud. I leaned back in my chair trying to breathe. That was when I heard footsteps behind me. Don't close that. Mr. Cole's voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had come back for his phone. My hand froze on the mouse. The screen was still open. There was no hiding it now. He walked in slowly and stood beside me. He looked at the documents, then at my face. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rain outside seemed louder. Finally, he sighed. "Sit down," he said. "We need to talk." He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten me. That made it worse. He spoke about pressure, about competition, about how business was not as clean as people believed. He said everyone bends the rules a little to survive. Then he looked straight at me. I trusted you because you're like family, he said. Family. That word hit me hard. He reminded me of my job, my sick mother, my sister's school fees. He spoke gently like he was protecting me. If this gets out, he said softly, we both lose everything. I felt trapped. My head nodded before my heart could answer. That night I chose silence. After that day, my life changed in ways I did not expect. Mr. Cole began giving me more work than before. First it felt like trust. Then I noticed the difference. He asked me to edit reports before meetings and remove certain lines. He told me to delete emails that mentioned payments or delays. When auditors asked questions, he told me to redirect them or say he was unavailable. Each time I told myself it was temporary, just until things calmed down. But they never did. The weight followed me home. At night, I lay awake listening to every sound in the house. I dreamed of police knocking on our door and calling my name. In the morning, I felt tired before the day even started. I snapped at my sister over small things and hated myself for it. When my mother asked if something was wrong, I forced a smile and said everything was fine. At work, Mr. Cole treated me better than ever. He praised me during meetings and trusted me with sensitive tasks. You're my right hand, he said once. People looked at me with respect. But when Mr. Cole looked at me, his eyes had changed. They were no longer kind. They were careful, like he was watching me. One morning, a junior accountant was called into a private meeting. She walked past my desk with a nervous smile, holding her notebook tight against her chest. The door closed behind her. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. When she came out, her eyes were red and her face was pale. She was crying. Later that day, the news spread quietly through the office. Management said she had made serious mistakes in financial reports. They said money did not add up and that she could not explain why. She was suspended without pay while they investigated. I felt sick. I knew the truth. Those mistakes were not mistakes at all. They were changes made to hide the secret I had seen. Changes she never touched. Changes that were now being placed on her shoulders. I wanted to speak up. I opened my mouth more than once, but fear stopped the words. I told myself I had a family to protect. I told myself it was not my fight. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and stared at my reflection. I did not recognize the person looking back at me. My eyes looked tired. My face looked guilty. That was when I understood something painful. I was not just silent anymore. By saying nothing, I was helping him. I was part of it. After the junior accountant was suspended, the office changed. People whispered in hallways and stopped talking when someone walked past. Emails from auditors increased. Inspectors began visiting without notice. The calm place I once knew felt tight and uncomfortable. Mr. Cole became different too. He smiled less. His voice sharpened during meetings. Small mistakes made him angry. He watched everyone closely, especially me. One afternoon, he asked me to follow him into his office and close the door behind us. "Remember our agreement," he said quietly. "Say nothing. Ever." I nodded, even though my stomach twisted. I could feel fear spreading through me like cold water. After that, I started saving copies of files whenever I could. I told myself it was only for protection, just in case someone tried to blame me. I hid them carefully and never looked at them twice. Still, I felt like I was walking on thin ice every day. Every email made my heart race. Every phone call felt dangerous. Every knock on the office door made me jump. The company that once felt like safety now felt like a trap. And I did not know how to escape it. The end came on a Monday morning. There was no warning, no meeting, no explanation. I had barely sat down at my desk when a security officer walked over and said my name. His face was polite but empty. "Please come with me," he said. I looked around for Mr. Cole, but his office door was closed. No one met my eyes as I was walked through the hallway. At the front desk, they told me my access had been removed. My email was already locked. I was given 10 minutes to collect my things. Mr. Cole never appeared. Not once did he look at me. By lunchtime, messages from coworkers filled my phone. They were confused. Some asked what happened. Others said nothing at all. That evening, as I sat on my bed holding the box of my belongings, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You should have kept quiet forever." The words made my chest tighten. That was when everything became clear. I had protected his secret. And when danger came, he chose me as the shield. If you love my story, please click like and subscribe for more. The next morning, I woke up like my life had been erased overnight. There were no work emails on my phone. No missed calls from the office. No reason to rush out of bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling while the city outside moved on without me. From the next room, I heard my mother coughing. The sound was rough and tired. A moment later, my sister knocked softly on my door. "Didn't you go to work today?" she asked. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I just shook my head. Outside, buses honked and people hurried past our window. They were going to jobs I no longer had. 6 years of loyalty had ended with one sentence on a piece of paper. Later that day, I checked my bank account. My final pay was missing. I refreshed the page again and again, hoping it was a mistake. It wasn't. I called the office. The phone rang until it stopped. I tried again. No answer. That was when fear changed inside me. It was no longer sharp panic. It became something cold and heavy. This wasn't just unfair. This was planned. Someone had decided to erase me completely, and they were doing it step by step. 2 days later, my phone rang while I was sitting alone in the kitchen. It was a former coworker. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked without greeting. "Tell you what?" I said, confused. There was a pause on the line. "They're saying you changed the reports," he said slowly. "That you moved money without approval." My legs felt weak. I had to sit down. By evening, messages flooded my phone. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some stopped replying after a single question. Then I saw it online. Under a business article about the company, my name appeared in the comments. "Disgraced former assistant. Greedy employee exposed." Each word felt like a slap. Mr. Cole said nothing publicly. No denial. No defense. No explanation. He didn't need to. The story was spreading without him lifting a finger. By nightfall, I understood the truth clearly. He didn't just fire me. He placed the blame on me so he could stay clean. And the lie was doing exactly what he wanted it to do. That night, someone knocked on our door. Not a soft knock. Not a friendly one. It was hard and loud, like the person wanted to be heard right away. My mother froze where she was sitting. I felt my chest tighten as I walked to the door. When I opened it, 2 men stood outside. They were dressed neatly and spoke in calm voices, but their faces were serious. They asked my name and showed me identification. They said they needed to ask a few questions. Inside the house, they looked around quietly. They asked about my job, about my role, about reports and accounts. I answered carefully, choosing every word. I told the truth, but not the whole truth. Fear sat heavy in my stomach the entire time. My mother watched from the corner of the room, her hands shaking. My sister stayed silent. After the men left, the house felt too quiet. My mother reached for my hand and held it tightly. "Whatever this is," she said softly, "do the right thing. I nodded, but my mind was full of noise. What was the right thing now? Staying silent had already hurt people. Speaking up could destroy what little we had left. That night, sleep did not come easily. Every sound outside made me tense. I knew something was coming, and I knew I could not avoid it forever. After everyone finally fell asleep, I sat at the small table in my room and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking as I reached into my drawer and pulled out a small flash drive. I stared at it for a long moment before plugging it in. The files were still there. Emails, reports, dates, edits. Clear proof showing changes made under Mr. Cole's orders. I remembered the nights I saved them without knowing why. Now I understood. I scrolled through everything slowly. Each file felt heavier than the last. This was the truth. This was what he feared. But holding proof did not make me feel strong. It made me feel hunted. I imagined how far Mr. Cole might go to protect himself. I imagined my family caught in the middle. The thought made my chest hurt. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. The room felt small. The walls felt close. I was just one person. He had power, money, and influence. Still, one thing became clear as I sat there in the dark. If I stayed silent, this would never stop. And if I spoke, my life would never be the same. The next call surprised me. It came late in the afternoon, when the house was quiet and my thoughts were loud. I almost ignored the ringing, afraid it would bring more bad news. When I answered, I recognized the voice right away. It was the junior accountant. "I heard what they're saying about you," she said softly. "It's not true." My chest tightened. I did not realize how much I needed to hear that until she said it. She told me what happened after she was suspended. Management called her in again and placed a paper in front of her. The statement said she made serious mistakes, and that I had ordered her to change the reports. They told her signing it would make the problem go away. She refused. "They told me you were the problem," she whispered. "They said you planned everything." She said they warned her that staying quiet was the only way to protect herself. She chose not to sign and walked out instead. Since then, no one had called her back. When the call ended, I sat still for a long time. For the first time since being fired, I did not feel completely alone. Two people knew the truth now. That was dangerous. But it also made me realize something important. If they could lie this easily about me, they could do it to anyone. And if no one spoke, nothing would ever change. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, I knew who it was before I answered. Mr. Cole's voice sounded calm, almost kind, like we were old friends catching up. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. "Let's end this quietly," he said. "There's no reason for things to get ugly." He said he understood my fear. He said he knew I had a family to take care of. Then he began listing what he could offer. Money to help me start over. A recommendation letter that would open doors. A promise that my name would slowly disappear from the trouble. "The problem can go away," he said. I realized then what he meant. The problem was me. "All you need to do," he continued, "is delete whatever you saved." My heart pounded, but I stayed silent. "Think carefully," he added. "People who fight power usually lose." The call ended before I could speak. I sat in the dark, staring at the wall. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I thought about my mother, my sister, the people already hurt by his lies. For the first time, I saw the truth clearly. He wasn't afraid of the truth. He was afraid of me choosing it. That night I could not sleep. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Mr. Cole's words again and again. His voice sounded calm, but I knew it was not kindness. It was control. He was giving me a choice, but it was not a fair one. I imagined my future if I stayed silent. I saw myself always looking over my shoulder, always afraid of being exposed, always wondering when another lie would fall on me. I imagined explaining to my sister why I could not look people in the eye. I imagined my mother asking questions I could never answer. Then I imagined telling the truth. I saw fear, loss, risk, but I also saw something else. Freedom. I would no longer be hiding. I would no longer be lying awake at night, waiting for the knock on the door. Even if I lost more, I would at least be able to breathe again. I sat up slowly and opened my laptop. The screen lit up the dark room. I reached for the flash drive and plugged it in. One by one I copied every file. Emails, reports, proof. This time I saved them in more than one place. I checked twice, then again. When I was done, I closed the laptop and leaned back. My hands were shaking, but my mind felt clear. There was a line I could not cross, and I had finally stopped standing on it. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was quiet. My mother and sister were still asleep. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at the small table near the window. The city outside looked the same as always, but I knew my life was about to change. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen for a long time. I wrote one email. Not to the police. Not to the media. To an independent investigator. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I attached the files. Every click felt loud. Every second felt heavy. I thought about the junior accountant who refused to lie. I thought about the people who lost their jobs without knowing why. I thought about my mother's words. Do the right thing. My finger rested over the send button. For a moment I hesitated. Once this was done, there would be no taking it back. No pretending. No hiding. Then I clicked. The email was sent. I closed the laptop and sat very still. My heart was racing, but something inside me felt steady for the first time in weeks. Once the truth leaves your hands, it cannot be controlled. And I knew there was no turning back. After I sent the email, nothing happened. No calls. No visits. No messages. The silence felt heavier than any threat. I checked my phone every few minutes, even when I knew there would be nothing new. Every sound outside made me jump. Every passing car slowed my breathing. I avoided the window. I avoided people. I barely slept. Days passed like this. Slow and tense. My mother noticed I was quiet and asked if I was sick. I told her I was just tired. That was easier than the truth. One morning while I was washing a cup in the sink, my phone rang. Unknown number. My hands shook as I answered. "We received your files," a calm voice said. I leaned against the counter, afraid my legs would give out. "They are very serious," the voice continued. "We are reviewing everything carefully." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Did I do the right thing? I asked before I could stop myself. There was a short pause. "Yes," the voice said. "You did." The call ended. I stood there for a long time holding the phone. Nothing in my life had changed yet, but something inside me had. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. The relief did not last long. Pressure came from all sides. Mr. Cole's lawyers contacted me through letters and calls. They said the files were false. They warned me to stop spreading lies or face serious consequences. The words were polite, but the message was clear. Friends stopped calling. Some avoided me in public. Others looked at me like I was dangerous. Even people who once trusted me now kept their distance. At home, money ran low. Bills piled up on the table. My sister asked if she needed to stop school for a while. Hearing that broke something inside me. That night, I sat alone in the dark and cried quietly so my mother would not hear. I felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. I wondered if I had made a mistake. I wondered if staying silent would have been easier. But deep down I knew the truth. Doing the right thing did not feel brave or heroic. Felt lonely. And yet, even in that loneliness, I felt lighter than before. The fear was still there, but it no longer owned me. Whatever came next, I knew I would face it honestly. The story broke on a quiet morning. I was eating breakfast when my phone started buzzing again and again. Messages came from different people, some I had not heard from in weeks. I opened one link and stared at the screen. The headline was not about me. It was about Mr. Cole. Investigators had frozen company accounts. Auditors released statements saying the records did not match. Employees were seen outside the building, standing in small groups, whispering and pointing at the entrance. I watched a short video clip. The company logo behind them looked dull and lifeless. The hallway where Mr. Cole's photo once hung was empty. Online, people asked questions. How did this happen? Who helped him hide it? I felt my chest tighten as I scrolled. My name was missing, but I knew the truth was moving closer. Slowly, carefully. Part of me felt relief. Another part felt fear. When truth begins to move, it does not stop quietly. I turned off my phone and sat still. I knew my life was about to change again. I just did not know how. The call came later that day. It was the junior accountant. Her voice was shaking, but this time it was from relief, not fear. They cleared my name, she said. They apologized. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. She told me they admitted the reports had been altered without her knowledge. She said they told her the truth had come from someone brave enough to speak. Then she said something that made my throat tighten. They said you helped. After the call ended, I sat quietly, letting the words sink in. For the first time, something good had come from all this pain. That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I stared at the screen before opening the message. Thank you. No threats. No warnings. Just two simple words. I did not reply. I placed the phone face down on the table and looked around the room. It was the same small space, the same worn furniture, the same quiet house. But it felt different. For the first time since I was fired, I felt seen. And for the first time in a long while, I felt hope. I saw Mr. Cole one last time a few weeks later. Not in his office. Not behind his large desk. We sat in a plain room with white walls and bright lights that made everything feel exposed. There were no awards, no framed photos, no signs of power. Just two chairs and a small table between us. He looked different. Smaller. Older. His suit no longer fit as sharply, and the confidence I once feared was gone. His eyes stayed on the table, like he did not want to meet mine. You ruined everything, he said quietly. There was no anger in his voice. Just tiredness. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. You did. He looked up at me then, as if he wanted to argue or defend himself. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. For the first time since I had known him, he had nothing to say. I waited, but the silence stayed. I did not feel proud. I did not feel happy. I felt calm. When I stood up to leave, he did not stop me. He did not threaten me. He did not ask for forgiveness. He just sat there staring at the table. As I walked out of the room, I realized something important. I was no longer afraid of him. Clearing my name did not happen quickly. It took weeks of meetings, paperwork, and waiting. Some days passed with no news at all. Other days brought small updates that felt heavy and confusing. Some people apologized when they learned the truth. They said they were sorry for believing the lies. Others avoided the topic completely. A few never believed me at all, even when the facts were clear. Finding work was difficult. Interviews ended early when my past came up. Some employers smiled politely and said they would call. They never did. My savings slowly disappeared, and there were days I worried about how we would manage. Still, something inside me had changed. I slept better at night. I stopped jumping at every knock or ringing phone. I no longer felt sick when I thought about the past. When I looked in the mirror, I could meet my own eyes again. My mother noticed the difference. She said my face looked calmer. My sister laughed more, knowing the worst was behind us. The truth had taken comfort from me. It had taken safety and certainty, but it gave me something stronger: peace. And I knew that peace was worth the cost. Months later, I found work again. It was not glamorous. The office was smaller, the building older, and the pay lower than before. But the work was honest, and that mattered more to me now than titles or praise. On my first day, I arrived early out of habit. I sat at my desk and took a deep breath. The room smelled of paper and coffee. Felt simple. Real. My new manager met with me briefly. There was no long speech. No promises. Just one question that caught me off guard. "If something feels wrong here," he asked, "will you speak up?" The room went quiet. For a moment, old fear tried to rise. The memory of what honesty had cost me flashed through my mind. But it did not stay long. "Yes," I said. My voice was steady. "I will." He nodded once, like that was all he needed to hear. As the day went on, I noticed small things. People helped each other without fear. Questions were answered clearly. No one whispered in corners. When I went home that evening, I felt tired, but in a good way. I told my mother about the job, and she smiled with relief. My sister hugged me and said she was proud. For the first time in a long while, I felt like my life was moving forward again. Looking back, I finally understood what silence had cost me. Silence felt safe at first. Felt like protection. But it slowly became a cage. The longer I stayed quiet, the smaller my world became. Fear grew where honesty should have been. Loyalty without truth had trapped me. I learned that protecting someone else's wrong does not protect you. It only makes you part of the damage. Speaking up cost me my job. It cost me comfort. Cost me friends and peace for a long time. But staying silent would have cost me more. It would have taken my self-respect, my sleep, my ability to look my family in the eye. Truth did not fix everything at once. It did not make life easy. But it stopped the lies from growing. It stopped innocent people from being crushed. Now, when I hear someone say, "It's safer not to get involved," I understand why they feel that way. But I also know something else. Silence feels safe until it isn't. And once you learn that lesson, you never forget it. I once believed protecting my boss would protect me. I believed loyalty meant silence. I believed keeping secrets was the price of survival. I believed that if I stayed quiet, nothing bad would happen to me. I was wrong. Power protects itself first. It always does. When trouble comes, it looks for a shield, not a partner. And I became that shield because I was afraid to speak. The truth hurt when I finally faced it. Cost me my job. It cost me comfort and security. It cost me people I thought were friends. But the truth also gave me something I did not expect. It gave me freedom. I can sleep at night now. I can look my mother in the eye. I can tell my sister to stand up for herself and mean it. I no longer carry someone else's wrongdoing on my back. I learned that kindness does not mean silence. Loyalty does not mean lying. And doing the right thing is not always rewarded quickly, but it is never wasted. If I had stayed quiet, I might have kept my job for a while. But I would have lost myself forever. And that is a price I will never pay again. If you love my story, please click like and subscribe for more.